Hello there today, this is Weald. I apologize ahead of time for my stuttering, which will occur. Today we are going to be talking about hero marches and the relationship that each hero has with each other. Um, Currently my march is between either... I forgot her name already. The new hero, Bry, either that or Ree. So that is a current variable that I'm going through, but with that note, it'll make more sense why it's either or. So, as you can see in my main march right now, I have three heroes: Gypsy. I'm just gonna call her Bree, or Bry, and Striker. So, this is for a pretty specific reason. Each of those heroes are different hero types, or at least what I would call hero types. So, Striker, we're just gonna go to him real quick, and we're gonna look at his ability. So, as you may already know, Striker has the indestructible skill effect. So I don't fully 100% understand it. However, I do understand that it's a damage reduction for those rounds that it applies. Heroes like Optimus Prime only have the indestructible hero skill for a single round. A round being like a full hit. So like that one. If it loads, replay. So like after every single one, launches, that's a round. I'm gonna state that as some people believe that rounds are simply like hits, like when a single stack launches attack, which is not true. A round is again when all of the 9 complete their hits on both sides. So, with that being said, right, I was talking about indestructible. Right, so Optimus Prime only has a single round no matter the skill level. When I talk about skill level, I'm talking about his exclusive skill, or a hero's exclusive skill. However, both Shinji and Striker, at a level 5 skill, as you can actually read down there, both of them actually are able to have indestructible for a second round with their level 5 skill, which is why they're a bit better than Optimus Prime from the get-go. Not to mention that they're able to launch attacks in the first round, whereas, of course, Optimus Prime has to wait until his indestructible is no longer there. So, with all that being said, the most important part of that is that damage reduction. So, how I mostly consider Striker is just like a defensive hero. It's kind of so there's kind of two kinds of defensive heroes, and that's why it's a little bit harder to explain, I guess. I forget how I actually explained it when I was talking to you in chat. But more so, this is, I guess, think of it, this is like damage decrease, more so, when it comes to defense. And then we're going to go on to the second type of defensive hero. Now, so this is more of like the HP defensive. And so both of them together, well, that's what makes it work, mostly. Or they complement each other, more so. So, Ree or Bree, depending on whichever one. Ree or Bree or Bry, is gonna boost my March HP extremely considerably. So I'm just gonna put in, I don't know, Shinji. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's put in OP. So the reason I changed this is because we're gonna look at the HP values of the report after we click replay, so that we can actually see the difference in HP. And the reason that I didn't want Shinji is because I used him for Air Force, and therefore his perks would also be for Air Force, and therefore it wouldn't be a good comparison. I'm just gonna change her out for Ree. There we go. Because otherwise, I mean, other than the difference in war, I'm talking about these down here. Other than the differences in war and defense, which will also affect attack and HP as well. But other than those, sorry. Overall, the shield will have a much larger effect on the HP, as we'll see in just a moment. Oh, unless I moved it. And replay. Okay. So we're just going to wait until all of the heroes activate, as that's when it finally, sets up everything. And there we go. Okay, so we can see, let's say, middle row, right middle row. Oh, that was quick. 600,000 something. I think it was 635. And then we're going to go back to, and you can just feel free to rewind if need be. I certainly would. And then if we just speed through this real quick, you can see that this ends with 945. So you can really see that difference. Like, that's almost about a third, more or less. And so pair that with Striker's ability to lessen damage overall. Specifically Striker as well with his ability, I think that was the support one? Yeah, it was that 40% damage reduction. That more so just shows what I'm talking about with this type of hero. But yeah, pair those two together, and that gives your March the ability to last a bit longer in comparison to other people. That's why if you see people using, let's say, like Gypsy and Mega, and then Striker, they don't really have that extra HP boost, and their survivability isn't really there. And then, well, on that point of Gypsy and Mega, attack heroes. So, attack heroes are, well, very little. They boost attack, they do a lot of damage. And so, you can actually usually see attack heroes actually have added attack. Just as a side note, I won't go too much into depth with this. However, I just would like to say that the 65.1% is not a direct addition to your attack set. It is actually more so a multiplier. It's a little bit complicated, but just keep that in mind, that it actually helps more than you would think it would. So, like, if I have 3,000 attack, it's not just going to be like, oh, it's just, no, there's 60 to it. No, it's a bit more. Yeah, but that's only, of course, when they're in the march itself. And so with that, and assuming that you understand, I see attack heroes as being a bit more straightforward. I can talk about, like, hero skills, but that goes into more specifics rather than the general understanding. So the reason that I like to pair all those together is because the game actually lets you complement heroes a lot better of different types than of stacking on the same type. So if I, let's say, have Megatron here, instead of, my shield hero, well, I mean, yeah, I'll still do more damage, but that shield is constantly on, is the thing. And those damage heroes, although they do help with, your troop attack as well, your troops aren't just going to last as long. That's part of the, swap of it. And that's why a lot of people's marches don't quite do as well. Now, that being said, there is a caveat to this. So if you go into your stats, I actually want to go into my other stats with, no, there you go, with 3. Now my defensive stats are a little bit higher, and so take this with a grain of salt, as everyone's account is going to be a little bit different, and potentially using a different hero combination may work better for you. Especially, let's say all of these stats were reversed as far as defensive and offensive go. So if my attack was 3,500, if my damage was 300 or 370, yeah, then it may actually be more viable for me to put Megatron there as well. And yeah, so it really just depends on where you're heavy. This is partially why, well, my count is somewhat balanced, and then you can see why I go a little bit defensive, generally speaking. That also being said, one more thing to add to this. You also have to understand the power creep. And by the way, power creep is the actual terminology used in game development. If you're unsure what I'm talking about, if you look it up, it'll take a second. It's very easy to understand. It's pretty much just how do developers continue to keep the audience engaged by releasing new content, but the content, well, like I said, keeps people engaged. If you just release something that covers what another hero already is able to do, they're not going to switch, of course, and devs want to make money, which is understandable for a business. So, with all that being said, going back to everything, or bring that all back to a single point, by also having the different hero types, you were then able to also grab from the newer hero releases and you're able to use that hero creep to your advantage, or power creep to your advantage. Pretty much all of the new heroes, because they are so much more OP, than the previous generation, and it varies per time scale or whatnot. I think the newest what their faces are, the the last big event. I think those are considerably more powerful than the previous, but that's just me. But yeah, so that's everything more or less together. I hope this more or less made sense. Um, I know it's kind of simple, but really that's just it. It's pretty much balancing. Think of it as yin yang, except there's a third one. There's yin yang yo. And you just want to keep those as balanced as possible, and that's where you're going to get the most out of what you're doing, generally speaking. That also being said, of course, on the note of what you're doing, I do want to add an exception, or a example of where you may not want to have that three hero type. So, for example, when I'm hitting, if you look at my stand table, you'll see that I'm using Gypsy, OP, and Mega. No defensive hero, no striker, no Re, no Bry, no Pollock, no anything like that. Because obviously for stand table, you just want that power. For World Boss, you just want that power. For the Sanctuary or the Sanctity. Why am I blind? There we go. And you can see here Sanctity. And you can see change all my skills and whatnot. So you just kind of have to think about really what you're competing against. And so with other players, a lot of players don't have that high of attack. The game makes it a lot harder to boost your attack stat than it is to boost your HP stat. So they're almost building in a boost to anyone who does want to go more defensive. That being said, with these kind of stats, getting more HP is a lot of getting the newer bases, which are 50% HP increase and whatnot, as I'm sure you can see and look up and whatnot. And yeah, but yeah, so it's more so just what you're trying to use it on and whatnot. And I think at this point I'm starting to ramble. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I think this covers it somewhat. And also, my apologies, I'm not going to review this before uploading, as I'm going to cringe far too much.